Hey guys, welcome back to the Homemade Homestead channel. I am Lindsay. I'm so excited today. I'm going to show you guys a tour of my garden. It is August 2025. It has been hot, it has been dry. We've had very little water, so I am going to walk you through our garden, show you what we have, what what we're going to be putting in there eventually, and kind of how we've grown through the years. So this is the first garden tour that I've done with you guys. First time I'm showing you everything. And we didn't start like this. It started so small. It started not successfully. We had a lot of plants die. We had a year we didn't do anything. And this is the first year it has gone crazy. We've harvested so many tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers and zucchini and flowers and all the things. So this year, let's walk through it. I'll show you what we've got. Some stuff is gone currently because of the heat, the pests, all kinds of issues that we've had. So I will walk you through it and let's get started. For me, you guys, gardening did not come easy. So I mean, years ago, I told my husband, like, I cannot even keep a houseplant alive. I can't, I literally would kill it by looking at it. I wanted to start small. I started our garden beds with 4x4 raised garden beds that we got from Home Depot. They were inexpensive, metal, galvanized steel. They worked great. They're a great size for starting. I mean, they fit in small spaces. And, you know, I bought plants from Lowe's and Home Depot the first year I ever did it. I bought them way late in the season. I didn't know any different. I didn't know any better. And I planted them in the garden. Most of them died. Some of them sort of grew. It was definitely a learning experience for me. I would say now I'm to the point where every year I start my own seeds. I harvest my seeds. So I try to save seeds. If you're not saving seeds, you are losing money. It is the easiest thing to do. You only need one plant typically to grow hundreds more, and the seeds last for years, so as long as you store them correctly. And on this channel, I'll go through different seed saving techniques. I even have like a seed saving catalog that I made myself that just reference is a quick reference on how to save seeds for each type of plant. Super easy. If you'd like it, comment down below and I will send it over to you. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And honestly, I don't even need your email address. Just go ahead, and I want to help. I want to help you when you're starting your garden. So today I'm going to talk about the 4x4 beds. They have been a pain in my side this year. When we first planted them, we didn't, like I said, we didn't know what we were doing. So we didn't lay down the best barrier fabric underneath it. We also didn't put in any kind of wire mesh underneath it to help prevent from any kind of ground molds, which we have a ton of here in Northwest Arkansas. They bury under, they come up through the garden beds, they eat what's in the beds. So we didn't know what to do with them first. And so they have a ton of crabgrass growing in them. We also, the second year we had them, I was pregnant and sick, and I didn't touch those beds. So the grass really grew in heavy in them and around them. And we tried pulling out the grass. We've tried adding more soil. We've tried lots of different things, and nothing seems to completely mitigate the problem. So I've used them the last 2 years for potatoes and carrots and just things that can grow in the soil that, it doesn't matter if the weeds take over on top. It's more what's growing underneath. So we're getting to the point where they are starting to improve. I think the soil in them is great. It's just that they get inundated with weeds. So our 4x4 beds currently don't have anything in them because other than one of them, which I'll show you. But 3 of them are just dirt right now. We pulled out the carrots and we pulled out the potatoes already this year with the heat. And I'm probably going to plant something like radishes or some lettuces over there and just see how they do this fall, just to try to keep the soil health up and try to make a better variety in those beds. Again, it's just been one of those things. Those I try every year to improve them. Hopefully we get to the point where we can use them more functionally and use them for a variety of different things in the future. For the sake of transparency, I'm going to show you guys what these beds look like right now. So like I said, we just pulled out all the potatoes and the carrots, and there were some snap peas. And, as soon as it got hot, we pulled out all of this stuff. And this has just been a few weeks of grass growth. It is crazy how fast this grass grows. And again, I'm not sure what to do. We might try to do some kind of solution to kill the grass. We try to keep everything in our garden organic, so it's kind of hard to say. And like I said, one of the beds does have something in it, and this is my loofah plants. I actually there's only 3 loofah plants here, but they have gone absolutely nuts this year. So right now, those 3 plants have taken over this archway right here, which I'll back up a little so you can see it, and they have moved over to the second arch that is above my pepper bed. But again, this bed too, even with the loofah plants, still has grass growing in it. It had a tomatillo plant, but the tomatillo plant did not do well this year. So right now it is just the loofah. These loofah plants grow enormous. I tried to harvest the seeds last year. I got almost, it was like 38 different loofahs. You can see them growing here. Let me see if I can find them. So you can see them growing up in the plant right now. We'll see how many I get this year. I planted them a little bit late. We had a busy spring and everything got planted a little bit later than I would have liked, but they are thriving and they are going absolutely crazy. When I first started gardening, I knew the plants I wanted to grow. I knew I wanted to grow different kinds of pepper plants. I wanted to grow everything I could possibly grow here, and I wanted to grow as many tomato plants and as big of a variety of tomatoes as I possibly could. I also really wanted to grow cucumbers, but right now this year I have almost 20 different pepper plants. I have lots of green peppers, serrano peppers, habaneros, and then I have a variety that I'm not entirely sure what they are. My kiddos are really good at plucking all of my labels, and this year I had a little, like I said, everything started a little bit later. I lost a couple of them, so I don't know which ones completely grew. I have these peppers that I don't know what they are, and I'm sure this is a struggle for a lot of people where you lose the label and you don't know exactly what they are. Let's see here if I. So if you know what these are, let me know. I have no idea. They sort of turn red-ish eventually, but it takes a really long time. And I have about 1 million of them, so that one I don't know. But the serranos we eat all the time. The habaneros I like to make pepper jelly with them. They're all doing really well this year. So the peppers have been happy. They like the sunlight, the heat, and they like that we haven't had a ton of rain. When we get a ton of moisture, they actually don't do as well, and the peppers are not as spicy. They end up being a little bit more sweet. So depending on your preference, water more, water less, peppers will reflect what that is. Here's a look at my pepper bed. It is a 4x8 bed, and this is where I did all of my peppers this year. I decided this year to follow less of the seed packet guidelines. I've seen lots of videos where people talk about how the seed packets have spacing when you're planting for giant rows of them, not necessarily for your raised garden beds. And so what I have found this year by doing that, I have been able to produce way more out of my garden. I plant them closer. I have less weeds coming through, and I'm getting just as much, if not more, from all of my planting. So don't necessarily follow your seed packets. It's all based on your situation. For me, raised garden beds, you can plant everything a lot more compact, and they will still grow. They will still thrive. So keep that in mind when you are planning out your garden for next year. I think I'm going to stick with this method. Like I said, behind me, my loofah have gone absolutely nuts this year, which is great. I'm so excited. They're so much fun to grow. They're so easy to grow. They're low maintenance, and you can harvest so many seeds. Each one of those loofah gourds has hundreds of seeds you can process for the next year. And I kept some. I sell some. I hand them out to friends. It's just a fun hobby that I have, and I really think it's a fun thing to grow in your garden. And then on these archways are awesome. So we have 5 of these archways now. It is literally just a 16-foot cattle panel from Tractor Supply with 4 T-posts on each one. So the T-posts are put into the ground here, and we put them right inside the raised garden beds, and then we fold in the cattle panels. I like to keep about a 4-foot gap. Some people like to do them a little wider and have them hang low, but I have found keeping them this wide, it makes them so sturdy. I could literally hang off of them and they don't buckle under the pressure. It's mainly for our loofah plant. This plant gets so heavy, and they hold up really well to that plant. So something super easy. All in, it's about $40 to make these archways. Totally worth it. I grow everything on them, not just loofah. I have some vining tomatoes that grow up here with little babies. I have some snap peas, some green beans, more tomato plants, a watermelon grow up it. I even did cucumbers also on this. We in Northwest Arkansas have a ton of issues with squash bugs. Squash bugs are literally the bane of my existence when it comes to gardening. I have had such trouble with them. Like I said before, we try to keep our garden organic, which means we try to keep away from all the harsh chemicals to keep the bugs away. But there are very few things that I have found that even make a dent on squash bugs. We've tried the diatomaceous earth, we've tried neem oil, we've tried cinnamon, I've tried different things, and I so far have not been able to get anything to really stick to get those squash bugs. So at this point in the season, my cucumbers, my squash, and borderland my watermelon all have been eaten completely by squash bugs. And so it's kind of a give and take. We start early in the season and we get a ton of cucumbers, a ton of squash, and I feel like it's overnight that you can just be like boom, and they're completely inundating everything that you have. And I'll show you a video of what they look like if you're not sure. But either way, next year I may take a year off. I may try to kind of burn down to the root some of these plants where these squash bugs have really inundated and planted their eggs, and where they continue to pop up. And that seems to be the only thing I've seen that sometimes will help. If you can take a year, even two off, you can sometimes mitigate them the following year because will stop coming back if there's nothing here for them to eat. The only other pest issues we had this year were with my Brussels sprouts. The Brussels sprouts have been completely annihilated by these little caterpillars, and I pick them off every single time I see them, but I can't keep up. So this year I grew about a dozen Brussels sprout plants, and not a single one is going to produce anything off of it this year. The leaves just look like they are gone. I'll show you what they look like. I probably should just pull them. But I'm also trying to do something this year where when plants are dead and I don't plan to plant anything in those beds until the springtime, I'm going to let anything that's in there die, and then I will cut it off from the top of the soil and actually leave the root system in the ground. So that way it adds more nutrients to the soil. We've been looking into different ways to enrich our soil naturally, and that seems to be one of the biggest ways. It's kind of the no-till system where you just let all of the plant matter that's in your beds at the time die in the beds, and then from there next year we'll just go ahead and plant where those other ones were, and hopefully it gives them a little bit of a boost. Next up we have our tomato beds. So I planted 2 of the 4x8 beds with tomatoes and then some herbs like basil, parsley, oregano, things like that. I usually will plant them kind of companion style. We'll add in some marigolds, all things to naturally help prevent pests from taking over. I have planted, I think, about a dozen different varieties of tomatoes. I have, San Marzanos. I have Cherokee purple tomatoes. I have, they're called Ace 55. Mostly the types of tomatoes I do are heirloom tomatoes because I want to be able to save the seeds. I want to be able to grow more from the plants that we grow each year. So, and I also want to take a look at what works and what grows really well here. That can change year to year based on the conditions. And it seems like if it's thriving, I want to save the seeds to try to grow those again next year. And we've had a little bit of the blight come through. Some of the leaves are dying. It's hard to keep up when it's about 100 degrees with 90% humidity. It's tough on the tomatoes. It's easy for them to catch disease. Most of the tomatoes that I have are pretty disease resistant though, and for this year I did the same thing as I did with the peppers. I planted really compact. I included everything in more of tight quarters this year just to see how they'd grow, and really they did well. I only used bamboo posts to trellis them up this year, and that actually seemed to work really well too. Some of the bigger plants, they even tipped over just a tiny bit, but nothing that was too much, and I would just tie them up as we went, and so far so good. Next year I'll do it a little bit differently. I would do it differently before I get started next year versus trying to learn to trellis them while they're growing. It made it a little bit more difficult, but like I said, we started with a lot last year that I would plant differently, and I would maybe spread them out a little more. I'd do different varieties because I did it in this bed right here is where I did just primarily tomatoes. There's a little bit of amaranth in here, just for some again, some variety in the bed, and this giant basil plant. But then over on that bed right behind me, that is the other 4x8 bed where I planted a bunch of different varieties as well. And I also had a few stragglers in the bed next to it, but I'll get to that later. kind of an accidental extra tomato, and I didn't really know what to do with it. So again, this year, this bed grew really well. I still am getting a lot of San Marzanos. I'm getting a lot of Romas. I'm still getting a lot of little cherry tomatoes on the vines. And then occasionally I'll get like a little Ace 55, or once in a while I get one of my purple tomatoes and I get really excited about it. But typically with this heat, those seem to struggle, and I cannot get them to grow big enough before they will crack open and they're not quite ripe. So it's been a little bit of a struggle with the heat, but other than that, our tomato beds have done really well this year. I will plant similar to this next year. I'll probably swap them either in the pepper bed, or I'll move them over into some of these other beds that we have built. Um, I like to move things around, just again for the soil health. It's good to move things back and forth. It's good to help prevent pests. It helps keep the disease levels down. There's lots of benefits to moving them around your garden if you have the space to do so. So tomato bed, another giant basil plant, and then right here we're back to where our loofah trellis is back here. And this bed is kind of a mosh pit of things right now. It's got some rosemary, some oregano. It also has 5 more Roma tomato plants. My goal this year was to make a whole bunch of pasta sauce. I haven't quite gotten there yet. I still have plenty of tomatoes to do so. And then in this bed, we also have another archway going up here. And this is the one where I have my green beans growing up. So right now, all the things you see up on this trellis are green beans. We do have a loofah straggler that has made its way over here, which is okay. I may end up having to trim it back a little bit. And these green beans in this back bed over here, these actually just started growing by themselves. So I didn't plant them necessarily. I had beans in this bed last year, and they just took off completely by themselves. This bed had some carrots in it. It had just some other things and some flowers. And this was full of squash at one point. And then once the squash all died back because of those squash bugs, these green beans just started growing. And we've kind of just let them grow. I think they're pole beans. They're not green beans, but they are about ready to be pulled off of there. And it was kind of an accidental thing, and it's been awesome. So we get some beans from it. And I still have my giant amaranth growing back there. This year I decided to try. I had a couple extra buckets, and they look like the little whiskey barrel buckets. So I have one here, and then one is back there. And these buckets, decided to try to do some berry buckets. I saw a video. I wanted to try it. The berries didn't take off very well this year. I'm not sure if it was a me thing or if it was a timing, or I don't know what the issue was, but they did not grow super well this year. We'll see if they come back next year. If they do, it'd be awesome. If not, I'm going to try to grow berries along our fence line, which is a whole nother video later on with our little orchard and what we have planned to grow outside of the garden as well. We have a lot of things that grow wild here in Northwest Arkansas. I mean, we just discovered a persimmon tree that is on our property. We have passion fruits vines growing everywhere, and so they all have fruit on them this year. We'll see if we get any. One quick thing too, back on this bed, there are more beans growing, and this year I decided to plant a lot more flowers. I'm not sure if you can see them. There's a bunch of zinnias back there, and I wanted to try to attract more pollinators. This year has been rough on bees. We have not seen honeybees. We had bees last year and we kept bees here, and they swarmed, and when they left, and we have not seen hardly any honeybees since. So this year I was like, I need to do something to get some kind of pollinator in this garden. So I planted a ton of flowers. So I have zinnias growing, I have sunflowers growing, I have blue sage growing right here, and all of these things bring in butterflies like crazy, which has been awesome. It has helped us a ton without having the bees around. Next year we do plan to get bees, so we'll keep you posted on that. But for now, this bed, just a quick overview. We did the giant zinnia plants. I have more amaranth. That's the big red stalks back there. We have okra, and on this side of this trellis, we have our watermelon. These are rattlesnake watermelons. They're going to be small. And again, the squash bugs have kind of gotten to them more than I would like, and we haven't gotten a watermelon off of it yet. There are a couple that are growing that are getting bigger, like this one down here. It's getting bigger. It might get to the right size, but as you can see, like The bottom's already starting to not work very well. And more than likely, I could find a squash bug if I really looked on that vine. So they're tough, and I don't know that I'll try them again next year. Same with pumpkins. I had really good luck last year with pumpkins. I grew a couple of the fairy tale pumpkins. They were really pretty, really big. And this year, they barely grew out of the ground before the bugs had gotten a hold of them. Here are those Brussels sprouts I was telling you about. So the Brussels sprouts, I mean, they are just completely shredded from whatever keeps getting them. I've tried putting neem oil on them. I've tried the diatomaceous earth. I've tried lots of different things, and it just doesn't seem to be working. I'm not. It could be a variety of things, but whatever caterpillars, whatever bugs are eating them, they're beating my system right now. I do have some purple basil back here, and like I said, the blue sage is back there. I just like the way the blue sage looks, and it brings in a lot of bumblebees, not honeybees, but bumblebees, and the butterflies really seem to love it, just like they love the zinnias. I haven't cut them back probably as much as I should, but it's been fun. It's been fun to see how well they've grown and how big they've gotten. And then rewind. So we have 3 4x8 beds in this row, 3 4x8 beds in the next row, and then a 4x8 bed, and then 4 of those 4x4 beds that way. And last but not least, we have the mega 12x4 bed on this side. This is where I have a ton of beans. Underneath those beans, I have some dill, I have some cilantro, I have some things that do well in the shade that are currently growing under them. And these are the purple cow beans, I think. And you wait for them to dry on the plant, and then you pull them off and you store them as dry beans. And this year I also, so I was reading the seed packet for some of these sunflower seeds that I had, and I misread it. I read it as if this was going to be like a 16-inch plant, and it turns out that was actually the spacing that these needed according to the seed packet. And so I now have like 10 feet tall sunflower plants that are growing sunflowers finally, but it was on accident. I didn't mean to grow them. I didn't mean for them to be this large. I'll try to get over here so you can see. Like, they have completely taken over that bed, which is kind of funny, but it is what it is. So that is a fairly quick tour of our garden for you guys. I would love to know what questions you have. I would love to hear if you have feedback on my garden. Right now, like I said, it's a little bit of a mess. It has been so hot. It's like when it's 100 degrees outside, everything is hanging on tight. And so we've been trying. We've been getting tons of tomatoes, tons of flowers, tons of peppers, and I've been really happy with it this year. I have plans for next year. I have an extra bed that's just sitting over here that we didn't get to put in last year, that I want to do something with. I have a whole bunch of area. I'd like to do a flower, like a kind of like a flower stand next year, and try to sell some flowers here. So many plants, so many things. But if you like this tour and you want to see more of my garden, more of my property, and just more of my homesteading content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, comment down below if you have any feedback for me, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video.